Hey guys, Maven here, and you are somewhere in the ring.
The following podcast is scheduled for one recording with no time limit. Making their way down to somewhere in the ring, Andrew Sanford and Ryan Sprague.
My kids to ballet.
Oh, cool.
Which is not a euphemism for anything. That
Yeah,
is
no,
just
no,
what,
it's
what has to happen.
It would be a fun one. I don't know what it would be, but it'd be a good one.
I feel like it would be some kind of Brazilian wax. That's what I
Yeah.
like. It's my first thought. I gotta take the kids to ballet.
Or maybe it's like getting a pedicure. I don't know.
It was true. I think like they play ballet, or they take ballet.
They're playing ballet.
They play ballet. They're very competitive.
Yeah.
And then they're like they had t-ball this weekend, so I'm trying to make them as like well-rounded as possible.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
But it's really just trying to. I'm like, if they're into ballet now, and I'm trying to make them pro wrestlers. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're doing these are all the things. I mean, footwork, hand-eye coordination.
Exactly. Yep. It'll be acting classes next, and then we'll.
Then you have to teach them about kayfabe.
Yeah, exactly. and how it's dead and buried, and it should be. And actually, the whole purpose is this is Somewhere in the Ring, a podcast where we talk about pro wrestling, and this is one of the few times where I'm segueing from actually talking to pro wrestling and saying that we're talking about pro wrestling. I'm rambling here. My guest today is Chris Calogero, returning to the show.
Returning guest. Thank you very much for having me back. I'm glad I didn't burn any bridges the first time. Happy to be here.
No, but first of all, we are happy to have you. Thank you so much for coming back.
Oh yeah, no, you guys kickstart my nostalgia for pro wrestling every time. The times that we've like interacted, I'm like, oh yeah, like the clip you sent me yesterday. I was like, oh yeah, dude, like.
So because we're gonna get into one of the main reasons I want you on is to talk about character work, because I love all the character work that you do. Anybody who's not following Chris on TikTok should, or any of the social medias, because I know it navigates.
Follow me in real life or whatever. Who cares? At this point, I got nothing to hide anymore. All our info and data, and it's out there already. So
I deal with I not to go on too much of a tangent, but I think that has translated specifically for me to fast food apps.
Oh yeah.
Where now I'm like, look, I'm gonna get fast food sometimes. It's just gonna happen. Why not give them my email address? Why not let it on my phone? Because then anytime I get Burger King, they give me free fries.
I was gonna say, then you're getting deals, and then who cares?
Yeah, they can know what I masturbate to. Like, I don't care. Like, have fun.
Yeah,
enjoy.
They're gonna sell it to our corporate overlords no matter what. So
yeah, exactly. Have fun. Yeah, give me a free any size fries.
Give me free fries, and I'll be your handmaid. I don't care. Yeah. Whatever.
That is how handmade sale starts. They don't really, they leave it vague because they know it's a little bit more.
Yeah, like Margaret Atwood, a big Whataburger fan.
But yeah, so you do a lot of character work. We're going to talk about that, which I'm very excited about. But before we get into that, and I know since it's been a bit since you've been on the podcast, I feel like last time you were on, we talked about how the Attitude Era.
Yes.
Was like when you were really into wrestling, right?
Yes, so that was it, yeah.
So the clip I sent you, because we'll be talking about one of the best character work people in wrestling, Mr. Mick Foley, was about his debut as Cactus Jack.
Oh, yeah.
It's just incredible. One of the things there's actually like he talks about it a little bit on his he had a DVD. I have to say that like it's ancient artifact.
They were putting out so many DVDs just for the character, like the history of that wrestler. Yeah, it was so cool.
Yes, it was awesome, and a lot of the interviews and that stuff were great. And one of the things he talks about in that moment specifically is how much Triple H helped make that moment, because Cactus Jack hadn't been. It was only an ECW guy at that point,
right?
So they had to really sell that it was important that somebody was migrating over.
Yes. I mean, I also forgot watching that clip that Triple H really did go by Hunter Hearst Helmsley back then, like the Connecticut Blue Blood, right? Like,
yep, yeah.
It was like it was such a different character than what like the game became, and like and all this stuff. Yeah,
totally. I one of my favorite things is there because it was the man with the silver spoon in his mouth.
Yes,
and there in one of the video games from that time. They had like a weird, like arcade style kind of fighting game that was more like Mortal Kombat than wrestling, play wise. And they would have these kind of like animated moves. Some of the characters, like Undertaker, would hit people with a literal tombstone,
right?
Like it would kind of like break like these quick. And Triple H's Hunter Hearst Helmsley's was that he swung a golf club.
Oh, it's so funny. That's so. I don't remember that. I don't know if I remember. Was it an arcade game?
It was an arcade that made its way onto systems.
Okay, I think I remember this now.
And it was done similarly to Mortal Kombat with like whatever they would do for like the motion capture for that stuff. So
right,
it looks like real people fighting. Yeah.
Kind of video quality.
Yes.
Look to it. Yes.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, also, man, you cannot go wrong in wrestling by playing a rich asshole. Like that is such a staple character.
I'm not tall enough to be a wrestler or in good enough shape, or coordinated enough, or I could keep going.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to get hit. My right foot kind of aims to the right a little bit. It's a whole, yeah. But I've always wanted to be a manager. Just the best. And I'm like, nope, I would put on a suit. I would talk about how I'm from New York. And how I'm better than everybody. Like, I'm sure it's the easiest way in. But
my friend, Scotland Green, he was a comedian for a long time, great host. And he was always a big wrestling fan, and he went to wrestling school, and he became like, he worked on being a manager, but like he still had to like go through all the falls and and learning all the, how to take bumps and all that stuff. But it was such a perfect thing for him. I was like, oh, this is a great character for you. And I thought that was so cool that he was like, yeah, I'm going to do this.
That's super fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw, cause you don't really follow wrestling much right now, correct?
No. I have. Yeah. It's been years. I mean, every now and again I'll poke in, or I follow enough people that follow wrestling to like get cool clips that pop up for me, or like cool, like bumps or moments or high flying things. But in terms of the day to day, no.
Were you watching long enough to see a man named Ron the Truth Killings wrestle?
No.
So Ron the Truth Killings, he started, African American gentleman.
Was he used WWE or?
He was. When he first kind of made his big debut, I'm sure somebody will correct me on this. I believe it was a debut on WWE. Then he moved over to TNA, and then he's been on WWE programming for quite some time. And became kind of like he was placed more into being like a comedy figure, despite having like really great skills in the ring.
Yeah,
and excelled at that, even though he was thrown angles at him that could often easily be labeled as racist or silly or just not
in wrestling.
Yeah, an absolute shocker.
You're talking about the form of entertainment that had Papa Shango and.
There is a match where I can't remember his name. We were almost going to cover the match at one point. It's like a crazy. It was like basically a Hell in a Cell type thing, but it was like a team death match or something. And this is WCW, but it's still wrestling in like 91, but still bad. A black man gets put in an electric chair and electrocuted in the center of the ring at the end of the match.
My God, dude.
It's the crazy. It's Abdullah the Butcher, if I remember correctly. So already we got some problems.
Abdullah the Butcher. Yeah.
But yeah, so long history of racism in professional wrestling. But R-Truth was one of those people who could be above could
Yes. Okay. I know who you're talking about now. Yes.
Okay. So that one of the biggest stories in wrestling recently was John Cena doing a big heel turn.
Right. That I see. Like that, I saw it happen. I didn't see it happen, but I saw, the social media. So you feel like you watched it at some point. Yes.
Sure. Yep. Yeah. It's been memed. Travis Scott was there for whatever reason. Like, it definitely made its way at least a little bit into the public sphere. Part of that storyline was R-Truth in character joking about how John Cena is not really a bad guy, and this was all in story stuff. And because he would always say how he's been John Cena's biggest fan since he was 5 years old. R-Truth is 55. Okay. But the joke is that he's always been, yeah. Yes. And he's great. He nails that kind of stuff. He was like, no, you guys don't know. He's still a good guy. They actually wrestled a huge match on a thing called Saturday Night's Main Event not too long ago, where R-Truth actually came out wearing John Cena inspired gear with his face on it and stuff. Just like really.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
It was a great match. And again, this is NBC. So they were like putting this up in front of everybody, even people who don't usually watch wrestling. And then he had another match the following night on Raw. And then the following Saturday, he gets on Twitter and says, I regret to inform everybody, but I have been released from the WWE. This will be, I'm done. And then it starts to leak out. Yes. So then it starts to leak out.
Is it a work or is it?
That's what I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask. So I want to give you as many details as I can. And then that will be my question for you. So he puts that out there on Twitter. And around the same time, another wrestler named Carlito, he's part of a big wrestling family. He's an older wrestler. He came back a few years ago. He said the same thing. But if I remember correctly, either he said it or it started to get out that it wasn't that R-Truth was released, but these wrestlers were told their contracts would not be renewed, but their contracts would be up soon.
Okay.
So then he is just not mentioned on WWE TV. Like, it's just a clean break. So everybody's just kind of like, okay, he probably is gone. There begins chants begin at these WWE shows of people saying, we want truth over and over again.
Yeah.
And there was a hashtag campaign, I believe, we want truth. And it's going and it's going. And then out of nowhere, Saturday night at the pay-per-view called Money in the Bank, it's John Cena and Logan Paul against Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso. And John Cena is about to cheat to win the match. And someone runs in out of the crowd with a hood up and a mask on, takes him out, makes him lose. And it is R-Truth. And the announcers start freaking out. Everybody's freaking out. A huge pop. It was awesome. There are some clips. I think one of the hardest things it is to fake as an actor or a social media person or whatever is genuine emotion. It's very hard. You can see some people who are genuinely moved by seeing him come back.
Yeah.
So during the show, Michael Cole, one of the announcers, specifically says, "Oh, he's back," even though him and WWE, we thought he left, but because him and WWE couldn't come to terms on a contract. And then after the show, at the press conference, somebody asks Triple H directly and says, "How much of the fans asking for this?" And Triple H just goes, "Are you enjoying the show? You like it's all part of the show, man." And he just moves on. And then R-Truth gets a. I think so too. And then R-Truth gets on social media and says, "No cap. This was not a war. You guys made this happen. You guys calling for this made it happen." And now there have been some rumors getting out there saying that the co-president, Nick Khan, stepped in at the last second to get R-Truth to sign an extension. We now know that he will be going by Ron Killings, because I guess he had always wanted to have like a serious end to his career, not as a joke. So with that insane amount of detail, those insane amount of details I just threw at you, what do you think as someone who is not watching currently?
Oh man, I always tend to fall on the side of work. Like I always generally like, maybe because I never wanted to be thought of as a mark, that I was like, I'm like, oh, that's a work. So, but in the age of social media, I find it to be really interesting. Like just hearing this, I hadn't thought of the ability to use that to further storylines, which is such a great thing. As much as it's the push and pull of social media in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
in a microcosm, which is like, man, it's really great for one thing. And then in another way, you're like, I would love to jump into the boiling ocean and never return because of social media, like there's both of those things are like exist in the same, not only at the same time, but in the same moments, but I think it's very cool that wrestlers can go on there and like continue whatever work, storyline, kayfabe, whatever's going on. That's very cool, but it's hard for me to believe that any of it was not planned, even if it was only loosely planned.
Sure.
Because it's so perfect. It's just so good that it's maybe there was a moment, maybe he forced their hand into re-signing him, which would have been really smart of him to do by just throwing it out into the public, and now he's got all the leverage.
Sure.
But if it's just purely all storyline work angle, beautifully done. Especially trying to hide things in the modern age, very difficult. If fans got him re-signed, super smart play by Ron to basically like force the hand and make them see like that he has been treated poorly.
Yeah.
I think it's always smart to do, like, if you air that out and then people have to see it.
Yeah. And what's interesting too is we live it. Speaking of like the kayfabe walls being down, like it is something where this wouldn't have been possible before. Him even mentioning that he was released or not going to be re-signed wouldn't have been possible or as possible. So it's one of those interesting, like a push and pull. For sure. Yeah. Because I talk about this a lot too, which is
I think though, like,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think it's more possible. I think it's more possible now in this modern day, like, era, that because of what you said, because it would have been harder back in the day to get that information out there. You would have had to like filter it through like a message board or like one of the, like a fan site, and now you can just speak directly to the people. So I would say it's more possible today that he worked this in a real life way to get himself resigned, rather than in the old days where information was able to be way more tightly kept in by the organization.
Totally. And I think that it speaks to that too. What's kind of funny is I've like seen people be like, oh, how could anybody think this isn't a work? Or just kind of like trying to speak definitively on either side. And I do think what's kind of fun, and it's this kind of magic of wrestling, is that we just don't know. I believe him.
Yes,
I believe him saying it's not a work. But I'm also just like, maybe it was. Would it be? And if it wasn't,
I know.
And they like, if it wasn't, and they're now acting like it was, is that so bad?
Right. Exactly. Like that. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing to take what you've been given and put. I think that's one of the best things that wrestling does, is even if real life stuff is happening and they can just work it in, like they're always flexible. The story is always rolling forward. So like whatever you can then chuck in that makes the story more interesting, you take it and do it. But like I said, well, first of all, like you're like, oh, people have to be like definitively one side or the other, which is again a big problem of social media, which everything is 100% one way or the other. But like I said, either way, whatever the truth is, both were good things. Like they did, if it was a work, they did it beautifully. If it was not, they did it beautifully.
Agreed. 100%. Like he gets to stick around. He gets to keep his job. The fans had their voices heard. Like I don't think, even as a work, like they can't anticipate people reacting the way that they did.
No, absolutely not.
So to roll with that, I think is beautiful. It's fantastic. And
to roll with it and also create a special moment, like a pop moment where he comes back. Like whatever road led to that moment, that's all that matters, right? Because now he's back, got a big pop, the fans love it. And to Hunter, I almost said Hunter Hearst Helmsley, to Triple H's point, you like the show. He's saying like, however you want to think, did you like the show? And you go, yeah, okay, fair. I don't need to know everything. You know, it's like a magician being like, yeah, I'm not going to tell you, but did you have a good time? And you go, yeah, I had a good time.
Yeah. It's like the one, like I think a magician is a perfect way to put it. Like, it's like I always like with like again, tangents, but like with AI stuff or like AI movies or whatever and things like that. I think the reason that those will never gel with like a wide populace is because they are nothing but seams. And we as human beings love to be like, no, I can see what's screwed up here.
Yeah. Oh,
no, Superman's not really flying. No, that's
Hollywood's
not really
on notice, though. AI is coming for you. Have you seen all the lifeless, soulless 2-minute videos of nothing happening and no point? Watch out, Hollywood.
Yep.
So stupid.
So stupid. I would like to segue this into one of the main reasons I wanted to have you here. Because again, I mentioned at the top, I think you do excellent character work. That could not be, of course, that could not be imitated by an AI. That is a perfect example of human ingenuity and creativity. I will set it up just a little bit, but then I would love to hear your thoughts on it. But it's anybody who hasn't, Chris does these short videos putting himself in different character scenarios. And like when I say short, like I think maybe the longest are sometimes like 3 minutes tops.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But some of my personal favorites are guy who just atomized somebody with like a laser weapon. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Oh, I think I breathed some of him in. That one's really fun. I love you had one because I'll always appreciate shots at Eric Adams nonsense about you being the captain of the NYP dance team.
Oh, that was because there was a dance team video going around, the NYPD dance team video going around.
There's uncle who like wants to get you into scams, into scamming people.
Oh, the side hustle guy.
Yes, side hustle. Yes. Like there's so much fun stuff. What's your process like on getting those things set up? How much thought would you say goes into them?
So, thank you very much, by the way.
Of course.
Yeah, I guess like it started out as very much doing movie cliches. That's how I started like making videos because I thought it'd be fun. There was this app out at the time called Laugh Exchange, which was a weird, like, it was almost like based on like HQ in a way, but comedians would submit videos and they would curate their top 8 or whatever, and then they would put them out twice a week, and people would tune in and vote on which video they thought was the funniest. And you would win real money. Like you could win like $300 for like, being the top video. And so I didn't really want to put stand-up clips. Behind the times, I guess people were really reading the tea leaves back then. But I decided I had always wanted to try and do characters and get more into that. And I had some bad experiences on stage with it. So I kind of put it to the side for a long time. And then I was like, yeah, I'm going to film these. And the first one I filmed was like every police chief in an action movie. And it's just like quick clips of, your classic chief being like, the mayor's up my ass, that kind of stuff.
One of my favorite, I'm going to just compliment you a little bit more. One of my favorite parts of that, he keep going, badges.
Oh, badges. Yeah.
Badges.
So I had so much fun with that. And it was like, I think that like 1 a week or whatever. And then I put it on Twitter and then it started going, like, it was like my most popular thing I'd ever put out there. So I started doing like other like kind of movie cliche characters. And then I started to think of like with the henchman guy. So it's a henchman who fully vaporizes somebody and then realizes that the guns actually do vaporize, and like what that would make you feel like the first time you saw it would be like. So like taking like a henchman who's like a classic cliche and then adding in like an existential bit of comedy to it, you know? So I guess my process is always at this point, because I've been doing it for a bunch of years, is do I have a central joke, an idea that I can hang this entire thing on? And do I feel like I want to do it? Because I think you can get in a trap sometimes with this stuff, especially social media now, where you feel like the beast just needs to be fed regardless of if you have the idea, regardless of if you want to do it, regardless of if you feel it's funny or blah, blah, blah. Like you just feel this pull of like, feed it. So I try to make sure that when I'm doing them now, that it's something that really draws my attention, I feel is funny and I want to do. So that's the thought process of making them. And then of like thinking to make them and then making them. I try to give myself a little outline. And I've been making them for a long time. So sometimes I can just rip them off like in a couple goes and just kind of get what I want and make sure that I have all the beats and the jokes that I want in there. And then that's kind of how I do it now.
Amazing.
Yeah. I just know, like, if I know what I want and if I have a clear joke central idea to hang it on.
Yeah, like a North Star.
Yes, I can.
If I get lost, I can.
Right, because I've made some where afterward I'm like, yeah, I didn't have enough juice for this one. But yeah, that's it, man. And then I just try to commit. I just try to commit to it as hard as I can.
And there's nobody out here that can do anything.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Ryan Sprague here from Somewhere in the Ring, and Andrew and I just wrapped an awesome episode of the podcast. We can't wait to share it with you soon, but before we do that, we need your help. We need your ratings and reviews, specifically on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, the two largest platforms in the world to get podcasts. Now, we are a small independent podcast, and we are going up against some pretty big hitters in the wrestling world. So in order to get featured, in order for us to find new listeners and gain visibility, we need your help. And that starts with a rating and a review over on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. It takes just a couple moments, but it means the world of difference to us. So from Andrew and I, thank you so much for your unwavering support. We can't wait to keep doing the show, and we hope you will consider a rating and review for us somewhere in the ring.
This might sound like a silly question, but what does it feel like to commit? Are you just like riffing? Are you just kind of like really trying to like, because I think the main thing that I want to get at is you do in 3 minutes what I wish a lot of pro wrestlers did a lot better.
Yeah.
So like, what is it about staying in character for those moments, or like what is that like? What is your kind of like? I don't want to say thought process. I don't want to sound vague, and it could be just as simple as you're just like, I'm this guy, and I'm just gonna say things and cut out what doesn't sound funny, or is it more of
that's
like,
kind of it. I mean, yeah, I allow myself the room to breathe. So, like I said, I'll kind of jot down my notes app in my phone is just like a manifesto of nonsense, you know. But I will write down the idea, like the overall idea, and then sometimes I'll be like thinking about it. I'll write down the idea and then I'll have it in my head, and then I'll start kind of thinking of lines for that fit this joke and fit this character, and I'll also kind of think of who is this guy, right? And like, is he? I mean, I love doing like Italian American characters and you know, like wise guys and all that kind of stuff. But you know, is he one of these guys or is he something different? And then now that I have the idea and the character, oh, this line would be funny. This line would be funny. I try not to overwrite it too much, but definitely like some lines. I'm like, just say that line, this line, hit that, and then allow yourself in the blank spaces between those lines to let the character live a little bit in the moment. So then some jokes will get written as I'm riffing them out with the baseline level of these boom, 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 boom. And sometimes they'll have an ending that I want to get to. So yeah, it's like half and half. Like I've written it out, but I try not to be too on script. Then I know the character. And then I'm also like, look, you just have to do this for 1 to 3 minutes. So just don't lose. I think it's instead of like staying in the character, to me, sometimes it's more like don't lose your energy. Because sometimes when you're doing something, and I'm sure you've experienced this with podcasting, you're going along and you start to get a little complacent, a little comfortable in the moment of what you're doing, and then you start to be like, you're kind of like, and then before you know it, when you watch it back, you're like, oh my god, I'm like dead on my feet there. Like what happened? And I don't think it's anything unrelatable. I think in every, like in a meeting, in a phone call, like sometimes you just like your energy just starts to dip without you realizing it. And I think it's more of a comfort. Like you're used to this, so then your energy goes down. So I always just remember to keep my energy way up, and commit to the joke. Like the joke is the character, and the character is the joke in a lot of my videos.
Sure. And I like that again. Not that I mean, obviously, I like there's no punching down. You're not even making fun of the stereotype. Like even if there's like an Italian American thing, like it's never picking on anybody. You know what I mean? Like that's like
I mean, Yes, I try to make sure that. Again, this goes to the clearness of the theme or the joke or whatever the premise is, and making sure your target is clear, you know, especially on certain ones. And I think when you don't have clarity sometimes of purpose for writing, comedy, performing, you will reach for something quick and dirty and low hanging. And then you've, even without maybe necessarily thinking about it, have hit something a little cliche, or a little trite, and then that will sometimes be offensive or just mean for no reason, purposelessly mean. And my Italian American characters, I feel like I try to imbue with a lot of care and love, because I do I grew up with a lot of these people, and I love them, and I just think that their view on the world is very funny a lot of the times.
Is there any character that you have come up with that you've done, like you did a whole video, you did several takes, what have you, that you were just like, that's not going, I'm not putting that out there?
Yeah, there was one. I mean, even sharing this makes me feel bad. And this is kind of exactly what we were talking about. During a lot of the protests during COVID, the George Floyd protests were going on, and New York was in Brooklyn were having a lot of protests, and I was going out to these protests, and I thought it might be funny to be like white guy at a protest who's like trying to fit in too much. And I made the video, and I was like, this stinks. I was like, this is just like, it's making fun of people, and this is making fun of people whose compasses are pointed in the right direction, whose hearts are pointed in the right direction. And the thing that can turn people off from not just like being like socially aware, socially active, but from being creative, being helpful, being kind, is people making fun of them for not knowing what they don't know. Yes. And I just thought that was not helpful. I didn't like it, and I just deleted it. Yeah. Yeah.
I did stand up for a while in New York, and I remember having a similar moment, but I have a great amount of respect for you for realizing that and kind of shelving it without getting it out there. Without having like people be like, why would you post this? Or you had the wherewithal to sit back.
I mean, it's a trap that people fall into constantly, and I get it. And like, it goes back to like feeding the beast, just pumping out stuff, and then people are like, "Hey, this is wildly offensive."
I had a weekly show at Charlie O's in the Joe Franklin room.
Okay.
Which is now it's like a American Flag Eagle Bar and Grill or whatever the heck it's called. It's really something like that. And the Joe Franklin room is now just a giant screen for people to watch football and/or.
Oh God, man! The Joe Franklin room, man. I remember that place.
It was why we were one of the last shows in there. I think they closed shortly afterwards and then were rebranded. And it was a constant, like, we would show up on Tuesdays sometimes and they were like, no, we have a private party booked in the back. And they were like, why didn't you have both of our phone numbers? Like, why wouldn't you tell us that?
Oh my God.
But I remember, because some of this stuff will stick with you, doing an Occupy Wall Street joke. This is how long ago this was. And my big thing was, I was like, I know how I'm going to get everybody. I'm going to go up there and talk about how all these protesters are out there with iPads and comforts and things like that. And I said that in a pretty decent side. Like, we weren't full, but we like enough people and enough comedians that I respected that I was constantly trying to pull in, and got less than crickets.
Yes.
Like absolute silence, as I should have.
Yes.
Because I was going for easy targets without even thinking about like why those people were out there to begin with.
Right.
Reasonable complaints.
Yes. No, it's so easy to fall into it, and you reach for things, and then people, you see it, like, you reach for it, people say it, but like I think the thing that separates certain comedians is somebody going, oh gosh, it's not that the Occupy Wall Street is not up for grabs for a joke, right? It's just that you aimed it in the wrong direction.
Exactly.
But instead of you being like, oh, these audiences don't know anything, and like refusing to self-reflect, to understand why you understood, and then like you don't do it, or like it crystallizes in your brain why that joke bombed, and some people just go the exact other way and be like, no, it's not my fault, it's their fault.
It's crazy that like I feel like I'm surprised that aspect of stand-up isn't more out there and open. I'm always floored because you'll see it at any level now. Maybe
every
I
level,
feel like there used to be a time where maybe you wouldn't see it as much in professional comedians. I think with social media and with everybody being able to find their niches, the idea of you needing to be able to play any room in the country is not as hard and fast or even like necessary anymore for certain people.
Sure.
But I would see I would go to shows that friends hosted. I would go to open mics. Again, it's been almost a decade at this point. And it's always, and even now when I will still go to friends shows, if the words something along the lines of, oh, I guess you guys are too sensitive tonight. Like that just never made sense to me.
No, I know. And I think especially now where like the bar for entry for not just comedy, where I'm trying to say here, that there's a lot of comedians who are making a lot of money who skipped learning comedy and get to play almost like arena shows without having really digested the fundamentals of what comedy is or how they perform comedy. Matt Rife.
Yes.
Like, he's a guy, like, look, God bless him, he's successful, but like he didn't really learn how to do comedy. He learned how to manipulate social media.
It's also so funny to me too that and obviously there are comedians that I have much more respect for that do the arena show thing.
Sure.
I know there are people that are capable of it. Some I'm not even a huge like Kevin Hart fan, but it is astounding watching him work an arena because it does feel like he's working a room.
Yes, I mean there's a guy who learned, but he did it, man. He came up, right? Like he earned it.
But it is always funny to me that this thing that once turned off Steve Martin so significantly that he stopped doing stand-up is now like the thing that people aspire to. They're like
playing
how
arenas.
Yes.
Yeah,
like
it's crazy.
Idea of, where with him, I feel like the whole thing was he was just like, it's not the same anymore. There are people, I'm having tens of thousands of people yell my jokes back at me. What are we doing here?
Right. Yeah. No, it's a fascinating. Stand-up's in a fascinating moment in that regard, for sure. In terms of who's selling tickets and why.
Yeah. And then as far as entertaining arenas, I'm gonna bring this back to wrestling. Look at that. Yeah. But this is what we do here. Especially when Ryan's out. When Ryan's not here, I can go on as many tangents as I want. I sent you a clip of Cactus Jack, Mick Foley. I'm sorry, I sent you a clip of 4 different people because none of these are the same man. Mick Foley, Dude Love, Cactus Jack, and Mankind. How familiar were you with them when you?
I loved Mankind. I
think we actually maybe talked about this on the last time.
We might have. I just remember him going from kind of freak show, sideshow to headliner, which was like amazing. Main event guy, but I thought his rise was so awesome and fascinating, especially in a moment in a business too that always prioritizes the guy who can pull off speedos, and big muscles, glistening big huge muscles, for him to come out and be like, sorry to go really hard at that, but
it's okay. No,
but for him to come out and do character work so hard and do like not just, everybody's playing a character, but he's deep in character and have success. I thought that was awesome. I'll never forget when he won the title on Raw. I thought that was so incredible and so fun and so earned for a guy who had put his heart and soul and life into this thing. To finally get that reward was amazing. But I was always a big fan of his.
And it's funny, that moment specifically, a lot of people, himself included, and maybe, it'll go back and forth, but a lot of people see that night as the night that the Monday Night Wars just kind of went in the other direction in WWE's favor.
Yes, the tipping point,
Yes, specifically because on WCW, they told people because they would do this a lot at the time, spoil what's happening in the other show.
Raw was taped at the time.
Yes. And they said, they talked about him. They were like, oh, they're putting the title on Mankind, so you don't have to, whoever wants to see that, that guy getting the belt. And then everybody turned over to watch this, everyman.
They gave them a good preview of coming events. They literally acted as a trailer. I forgot about that. They would spoil Raw live as they were doing their show.
And to kind of connect that to what's kind of going on with R-Truth right now is that sometimes you do have to listen to what people want. And Vince McMahon has a lot of issues across the board. But one of his issues has always been that he loves those big, meaty men with their glistening huge muscles.
He always loved a big guy.
He loves action figures. Yes. Even if they weren't good, he was like, no, this is who people want to win. And to his limited credit, he listened, or somebody there listened to the people, and we're like, look, Mankind, Mick Foley, people know his story. They like what he's doing. Yeah. And he's like an everyman kind of person, even if he's wearing a crazy mask.
Absolutely. Well, especially once the mask and the voice kind of started to drop a little bit, and he in Mankind and Mick Foley started to kind of more meet in the middle a little bit, as a character and a person. And in terms of talking about character work, the fact, I think that is not a mistake that he got popular as that was happening. And as that was happening, he got popular because he imbued it with the real underdogness of being Mick Foley, a guy who bounced around wrestling divisions and leagues and promotions without anybody quite knowing what to do with him.
100%.
So I feel like that fed Mankind's underdog story to have Mick Foley's underdog story wrapped up into it.
Yeah,
and that makes a good character because there was a lot of truth in him. Then all of a sudden,
absolutely. And I love even the dude love. So the clip. So for people who want to look it up, it's pretty easy to find. But it is a 3-way. Like Mankind is supposed to fight Triple H. But then he's like, oh, maybe Dude Love's it. It starts with Mankind talking to Dude Love, which is just
I love that.
And it looks great. Even for something for that time, it looks really good.
Yes.
And then they're like, oh, I'm not going to do it. I think you know the guy. And I love the Dude Love, like, talking I know you thought I'd be out there kicking some heavy duty booty. Like,
yeah.
It's unreal how dialed in he is.
Yes.
But like when you watch something like that as somebody who does characters, is there anything that you watched that either you were like, ooh, I might try something like that going forward? Or is it something where maybe because you saw this when you were younger, that might have influenced you in any way?
Good question. I mean, the idea of talking to yourself is always fun in character. I've had a few videos where I play like multiple characters in them, and that's always fun. Though I haven't been able to mirror the screen to be sitting next to myself. But it might, watching wrestling and being into comedy, and being into like Mr. Show and SNL. I would have to imagine all these things could feasibly have been fed into the blender of what I like to do as a character, I would imagine. Yeah, I think wrestling for sure. Wrestling characters are for sure an inspiration in when you have a short amount of time to make a video and make your point, because the over-the-top nature of their characters, where there is no subtext, it's just all text.
Yes.
Because they have a limited amount of time, they have to make an impact. They have to make people listen right away. They have 5 seconds to grab somebody's attention. So that probably, looking back, I hadn't really thought of it, but probably in my brain has been useful to know when trying to establish a character right away, because that's another thing I try to do is, and then the first couple seconds, like establish the tone and the character and the joke all right away, so that people are like, okay, got it. 100%. Otherwise, people just tune out.
Yeah, I think you could play one of your videos before like coming out at an indie show or even a regular show, and people would get like they feel very reminiscent of wrestling vignettes, which I think is a big reason why I wanted to bring you on, because there is that energy. And there is.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, dude, please. Like you're putting the work in. It's all there. I'm not saying anything that isn't true, dagnabbit. But it
no, but I hadn't thought of it that way, but I that makes me feel cool.
Hell yeah. So I think when it comes down to it, like I see something like that and I look at it compared to like just in that wrestling world, it feels very part and parcel, especially because of like the improv of it. But again, also I think with you keeping the energy up and wanting to be so hyper focused, I just think there are some wrestlers that could learn a lot from watching your videos. That's I think
I would love to
get at.
I would love to teach a course to them.
Because that's the
I think my uncle character would be. Oh, I was gonna say, I think my uncle character would be a great wrestler.
Yeah,
like the weirdly progressive uncle. I mean, he's like one of my favorite guys. He's probably the guy I've done the most, and I feel like he's ready. He's like built to be in a wrestling ring.
100%. I also love too that it's tank top, towel over shoulder. That even those little kind of like details, I think get things across very quickly. The costume choices are also there. There's again, the guy who vaporizes somebody has the kind of like the matching jacket and hat kind of thing, just things that you get across very quickly. The coroner, that's another one of my favorites, the overly comfortable coroner from an 80s horror movie. Yes,
always eating like over a body. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like again, that's part of. I think like having also like inhaled a ton of pop culture and movies and like understanding, especially horror movies, where again characters are established very quickly, or there's jokes of characters like the coroner, or like the I have one like the janitor who knows all the lore of the school, immediately upon being asked. Like these characters are all there and like they're funny, they're weird, they're specific, and they serve like a very like laser focused purpose in those movies.
I assume I know the answer, but have you ever seen Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers?
Oh yeah.
A blast. Like 4 and 5 hold a special place in my heart, even if they're not like they're just fun slasher movies. But
4 is Danielle Harris's first appearance, right? Isn't?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And it starts with because that was the like, oh, it's been however many years since Michael Myers has been on screen, like 8, I think, something like that. And it literally is like a guy, like they're going to pick him up at a mental institution, and a guy like, oh, good, you're here to get Michael Myers. Oh, come with me, man. He killed his whole family. Like he killed a bunch of people in Haddonfield at this point, but then they brought him here. He went to a hospital. They thought he burned. Like it's literally him going, like, look, this is why he's back.
Yeah, let's fill you in. Yes. But like, you got to get a guy who's like kind of specific.
Yes.
Because
that's the thing. He has this, and he's a character actor that has like, if you looked at him, you'd be like, oh, this guy from those things.
This guy. Yeah.
But it works. That's the thing is it's like, just because it might be antiquated, it might be like, convoluted in a little way, but because he has this kind of like fun character energy, you're like, I buy that this guy probably says most of this stuff to people when they come down this elevator.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's part of selling it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's like he is 4 floors down. And again, energy, the lights are on, like in his eyes, like he's really excited to tell them this stuff. Yeah, it just works. It's like an unsung talent, I think.
Oh yeah. Those guys are so important, and they're always underrated.
100%. Chris, I have to go get my boys to ballet.
Get them to ballet.
But dude, thank you so much for coming on the show again. It's
always
nice
having me.
to see you.
This is so fun.
Yay. We will have you back on again soon for Ryan. I also want to start talking about some wrestling movies. And I think I would love to have you on for the No Holds Barred episode. I think that would be a lot of fun to talk about. Like, because have you seen that one before with Tiny Lister and Hulk Hogan?
Many years ago.
Yeah.
Yes, but I would rewatch it absolutely.
It's not good, which makes it fun, and it has some of my favorite lore to it, which is that Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon like rewrote the script in a weekend in a hotel room.
Just
like
coke-fueled weekend in a hotel room. God almighty.
Coke at minimum. Like just snorting HGH and going to town.
Disgusting.
But if people want more of you, and they should, where can they look?
I'm on all the socials at Real Chris Cal. So you can search me on just about anything with that username, and my website's chriscalogero.com, but more active on social. So yeah, follow me on Instagram and Blue Sky and TikTok.
Sweet. And we'll throw the link in. I haven't listened to it in a while, but Husky, your album. So sorry.
Oh, Husky Boy. Yeah, my album. Yeah,
Husky Boy.
Yeah, no worries.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, you can get my album on Apple Music, Amazon, iTunes, Spotify. Yeah.
And again, you should, because Chris is very funny. As you may or may not remember, the way that we like to end this show is to have our guests ring about. Oh, also wait, go to patreon.com/somewhere in the ring. Go to you can find me on the socials as well. I'm also on TikTok, mostly talking about wrestling. But Chris, to end the show, we love it if people ring the bell to send us out of here. That can mean whatever it means to you, but if you could please ring the bell and send us home.
Well, in loving homage to Rocky 3, I'll give you a ding ding.
Let's go. We haven't had it.